Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah, amma ba'd. We continue with our weekly webcast, and this week we'll continue reading from the book Tabsirah Ibn Jawzee in the chapter of fasting. And the Shaykh goes on and he gives a brief commentary about a verse, Surah Al-Qaf, where Allah Ta'ala states, لَقَدْ خَلَقَنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا يُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ. And we have created man, and we know what his own self has whispered to him. The Shaykh goes on, he says, that Allah says, لَقَدْ خَلَقَنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا يُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ. And we have created man, and we know what his own self whispers. And indeed, that ins is the sons of Adam. وَمَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ is what his self whispers to him, and what it says to him, and what it keeps store in his heart. Then he says, وَهَذَا يُحُثُّ عَلَى تَطْهِيرِ الْقَلْبِ مِنْ مُسَاكَنَةِ الْوَسَاوِسِ رَدِّيَةِ تَعْظِيمًا لِمَنْ يَعْلَمُ. And this urge encourages one to cleanliness of his heart, from having the bad whispers, out of glorifying the one who is all-knowing. وَقَالَ بَعْضُ السَّلَفِ إِذَا نَطَقْتَ فَاذْكُرْ مَنْ يَسْمَعُ وَإِذَا نَظَرْتَ فَاذْكُرْ مَنْ يَرَى وَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَاذْكُرْ مَنْ يَعْلَمُ. And one of the Salaf said, if you speak, then remember who hears, and if you look, then remember who sees, and if you take a decision, then remember who knows. Then the Shaykh goes on and he says, يَا مُطْلِقًا نَفْسُ فِيهَا يَشْتَهِي وَيُرِيد. O you letting loose himself and what he desires and wants. اذكر عند خطواتك مبديا معيد. And know that your steps is the one who begins and repeats. وخف قبح ما جرى فالملك ملك يرى والملك شهيد. And fear the watchfulness of what has happened, for the king knows, and the angels are the witnesses. SubhanAllah, this is a tremendous statement. And fear the watchfulness of what has happened, for the king knows, and the angels are the witness. Allah Ta'ala says, وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. And we are near to him than his jugular vein, by our knowledge. هَلَا استحييت ممن يراك. Aren't you ashamed of the one who sees you? إذا ركبت من هواك ما نهاك. And when you follow your desires, what he had forbidden you. ستبكي والله أينك مما جنت يداك. Your eyes, by Allah, shall cry because of what your hands have earned. أما تعمل أنه بالمرصاد فقل لي أين تهيد. Didn't you know that he is ever watching? So tell me, where do you turn away? قال الله تعالى وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبَ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. And we are nearer to him than his jugular vein, by our knowledge. Surah Al-Qaf. وَقُلْتُ أَيْنَ فَقُلْتُ لَهُ أَنْتَ وَحْدَكَ فَقَالَ مَعِي رَبِّي وَمَلَاكَ. قال بعض السلف مررت برجل منفرد الطريق فأشار نحو سماء ثم مضى وهو يقول أكثر خلقك شاغل عنك. One of the pious predecessors, one of the Salaf, said, I passed by a man who was by himself, and I said to him, are you alone? He said, my Lord is with me and my two angels. So I said, where is the way? Then he pointed towards the sky and left off saying, most of your creations are detached from you. Most of the creation are detached from you. رواد رجل امرأة فقالت ألا تستحي فقال ما يرانا إلا كواكب فقالت أين مكوكبها. A man was after a woman, so she said to him, aren't you ashamed? Won't you have some manners? He said, no, one sees us except the stars. And she said, and where is the one guiding them? Then the Shaykh goes on and he says, إِذْ يَتَلَقَّى مُتَلَقِّيِينَ عَنَ الْيَمِينِ قَعِيدٌ وَعَنِ الشِّمَالِ قَعِيدٌ وَعَنِ الشِّمَالِ قَعِيدٌ. And remember that the two receivers receive each human being, one sitting on the right and one sitting on the left, taking notes of your actions. The two receivers are two angels receiving word and writing it. One on the right is the writer of the good deeds, and one on the left is the writer of the bad deeds. And he did another rhyming with the saying, Anil yamini qa'idun wa anil shimali qa'id. One sitting on the right and one sitting on the left. ما ظنك بمن يحصي جميع كلماتك. What you say about one who counts all of your words. يضبط كل حركاتك, and checks all of your movements. يشهد عليك بحسناتك, and is a witness over you with your deeds. يرفع صحائف وهي سود, and the records are brought and they are black. وعمل منافقي مردود, and the deeds of the hypocrites are thrown back. ويحصروه ملاكني لدى مؤدود, and two angels bring it forth before the one worshipped. Ya sharrul ibad, O worst of slaves. Anil yamini wa anil shimali qa'idun, one sitting on the right and one sitting on the left. ويضبطان على العبد ما يجزي من حركاته, they write down for the slave what runs of his moments. وما يكون من نظراته وكلماته, and what becomes of his looks and words. واختلاف أموره وحالته, and the turning of his issues and his manners. لا ينقص ولا يزيد, it isn't reduced nor is anything added. عن اليمين وعن الشمال قعيد, one sitting on the right and one sitting on the left. قال سفيان الثوري يوما لأصحابه أخبروني لو كان معكم من يرفع حديث إلى سلمان أكنت تكلمون بشيء؟ قالوا لا. قال فإن معكم أن من يرفع حديث إلى الله عز وجل. Sufyan al-Thawri said one day to his companions, tell me if there was with you one who was reporting everything you were saying to the ruler, would you speak of anything? They said no. He said, well, there is with you reporters what you say to Allah. Allah Ta'ala, He says, وَمَا يَلْفِظُ مِنْ قَوْلٍ إِلَّا لَدَيْهِ رَقِيبٌ عَتِيدٌ, Allah Ta'ala says, not a word does he or she utters, but there is a watcher by him ready to record it. Ya kathir al-kalami hisabuka shadid. O you of much speaking, your repentance is severe. Ya azima ijrami azabuka jadid. O you of great crime, your punishment is renewed. Ya mukthiran ma yaduruhu ma ra'yuka sadid. O you preferring what it harms you. O you who prefers what harms him, your decision isn't right. Ya yatiqan bima la yujdi wa la yufidu. O you speaking out what doesn't do well nor benefit. Ma yalfidhu min qawli illa ladayhi raqibun atid. Not a word does he utter. He or she utters, but there is a watcher ready to record it. Kalamuka maktuban. Your words are written down. Wa qawluka mahsubun. And what you say is recorded. Anta ya hadha matlub. Are you, and you, O you, are wanted. Wa laka dhunubun wa ma tatubu. You have sins and you repent not. وَالشَّمْسُ الْحَيَاةِ قَدْ أَخَاذَتْ فِي غُيُوبٍ. And the sun of life is starting to set. فَمَا أَقْسَى كَلْبَكَ مِنْ بَيْنِ قُلُوبٍ. So how hard is your heart from amongst the hearts? لَقَدْ أَتَابُ مَا يُصَدِّعُ حَدِيدٍ. And here has came to it what breaks the seal. وَمَا يَلْفِظُ مِنْ قَوْلِ إِلَّا لَدَيْهِ رَقِيبٌ عَتِيدٌ. Not a word does he or she utters, but there is a watcher ready to record it. أَتَظُنُّ أَنَّكَ مَتْرُوكٌ مُهْمَلٌ. Do you think that you are left neglected? أَمْ تَحْسَبُ أَنَّهُ يُنْسَى مَا تَعْمَلُ. Or do you think that it is forgotten what you've done? أَوْ تَعْتَقِدُ أَنَّ الْكَاتِبَ يَغْفُلُ. Or do you believe that the writer becomes heedless? هَذَا صَائِهُ نَصَائِهِ قَدَ أَقْبَلُ. Here comes the one crying out the reminders. Ya qatila nafsahu fi kaffihi la taf'al. Oh, you killing your own self with your own hand, don't do it. Ya min ajaluhu yankusu wa amaluhu yazid. Oh, you whose life is decreasing and his wishing are increasing. Whose life is decreasing and whose wishing is increasing. ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. And not a word does he or she utters, but there is a watcher ready to record it. And Allah Ta'ala goes on and he says, وَجَاءَتْ سَكَرَاتُ الْمَوْتِ بِالْحَقِّ. And the coming of death is true. And the coming of death is true. إخواني احذروا من أرضي على مالكي طولي والأرض. My brothers, beware of the presenting before the possessor of height and weight and width. أعدوا جواب إذ سئلتم عن الفرض. And make ready the answer if you are asked of the obligations. أين الحياة من قبح مضمرات. And where is the shame of the disgrace of the hidden secrets? أين بهاء على safili khatarat. And where are the tears on the past shortcomings? Aina khawfu min al-jazai ala khatawati khati'at. And where the fear of the compression of the steps of sins? Ya min ma'asihi kathiratun mashhura. O you whose sins are plentiful and well known. Ya min nafsuhu min biman yajni alayha masrura. O you whose self is pleased with whom is abusing her. O you whose self is pleased with whom is abusing her. Afi aini kamahun am asha. It is in the eyes blindness or some defect. Amin amru ilayka yajzi kama tasha. Or is it that things are going according to how you desire? Ala al-kalbi hijabun am gisha. Is on the heart a screen or a veil? Aya min idha qa'ada asa wa kaza idha masha. O you who when sitting is sinning and also when standing. O you when sitting is sinning and also when standing. Kullu fi'lika ghalat. All your actions are wrong. Kullu amalika saqat. And all of your deeds are down. Atura hadha aqlan iktalat. O wanderer, is there in the mind a discord, a disorder? O wanderer, is there in the mind a disorder? Ama kuwima bihadha shamat. Won't it be strengthened out? Won't it be straightened out with this? Ama allama shaybu ala hurufi moti fanaqat. Isn't the gray hairs put the dots on the letters of death? Laqad azama ajalu ala nuhud. And the fate is determined to rise. Wa tala ma aqama ad-dunya kurud. And long became what has dwelled in the life is placed to abandon. Qasrun yubna wa jismu mankud. A palace built and bodies to perish. Shaybu wa aibun yuzahliku furud. A gray-haired and a disgrace that splits one off the obligations. كأنك بأمري قد قرض. It seems the life is nearing its end. وَهَمَا عَلَيْكَ الْمَرَض. And the sickness has overcame you. وَفَاتَ كُلُّ مَرَادٍ وَغَرَاضٍ. And every soul and every goal objective has passed you. وَإِذَا بِالتَّلَافِ قَدْ أَرَضَ أَخَضَّ. And behold, destruction has embarked season. لَقَدْ كُنْتَ فِي غَفْلَةٍ مِّنْ هَذَا. And indeed you were heedless of this. شَخَصَّ الْبَصَرُ وَسَكَنَ الصَّوْتِ. The eyes became fixed, wide, open, and sound turned silent. The eyes became fixed, wide open, and the sound turned silent. وَلَمْ يَكُونِ التَّدَارُكَ لِلْفَوْتِ. And no longer is it possessed to catch up with the opponent. نَزَالَ بِكَ مَلَكُ الْمَوْتِ. And the angel of death come down to you. فَسَامَتِ الرُّوحُ وَهَذَا. And fronted the soul and faced it. لَقَدْ كُنَّ فِي غَفْلَةٍ مِّنْ هَذَا. Indeed you are heedless of this. وَعَالَجْتَ أشد شدائد. You struggle through the toughness, difficulty. فيا عجبا مما يكابد. How strange is what you are suffering. كأنك قد سقيت ثم أساود. As if you have been given the position of a lion. فقطع أفلاذا. So it tore every piece of flesh. لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا. Indeed you were heedless of this. بلغت الروح إلى تراكي. The soul reaches the collarbone. ولم يعرف راكيا من ساكي. And you know not what is going to happen. ولم يدري عند راحلي ما تلاقي. And you didn't know at your departure what you will meet. إياذا بالله إياذا. Allah forbids, Allah forbids. لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا. And indeed you were heedless of this. ثم درجاتك في كفن. And they led you down into the coffin. They led you down to the coffin. وحملوك إلى بيت عفان. And carried you to the house of the rotten. على عيب قبيح والأفان. Upon the ugly disgrace and error. وإذا الحبيب من التراب قد حفن. And behold, the loved one has taken of sand, a handful of sand. وصرت في قبري جذاذا. And you have became in the grave in pieces. لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا. And indeed you were heedless of this. وتسربت عنك وقارب تسري. And the relatives left away from you fleeing. تقد في مالك تفري. Dragging it, digging into your wealth and splitting it. وغاية أمرهم أن تجري دموعهم رذاذا. And the only thing they could do is have their tears running down, dripping. لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا. And indeed you were heedless of this. قفال أقفال بضعوا البطاعة. And they have closed the locks and packed the bags. نسوا ذكرك يا حبيبهم بعد ساعة. And forgot your mentioning their loved one in an hour. بقيت هناك إلى أن تقوم الساعة. And you have remained there in your grave until the final hour. لا تجد وزارا ولا معاذا. Not finding a refuge or protection. لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا. And indeed you became heedless of this. ثم كنت من قبرك فقيرا. And when you rose from your grave poor. لا يملك من مالي نكيرا. Not owning of wealth a worthless thing. أصبحت وأصبحت بذنوب أخيرا. And you have became slandered by their sins. ولو قدمت من خيري أخيرا. And if you had only presented of good good thing, insufficient. If you had only presented a good thing, that would be sufficient. Sarra maljan wa maladan, and you would have became a shelter and a refuge. لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا. Indeed, you heedless of this. نصيب الصراط والميزان. Then that thin line over the hellfire, and the scales were set up. تغيرات وجوه والألوان, and the faces and colors have changed. نودي شقي فلان وابن فلان, and it was called out, wicked is so and so, son of so and so. وما ترى للعذر نفاذا, and you don't see a buying of an excuse. لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا, and indeed you have become heedless. كم بالغ عذودك في ملام, and know how much has the warners extinguished in blaming. وكم قعد في زجريك وقام, how long has he told you off coming and going. فإذا قلبك مستقام, and if your heart is not set aright. قطع الكلام على ذا, the taking will end with this. لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا, and indeed you was heedless of this. And this is the end of the chapter dealing with fasting from the book Tabsirah of Ibn Jawzee, rahimahullah ta'ala. And the ayahs that the Shaykh was quoting, in this section of our webcast was ayahs from Surah to Qaf, ayat. What can we find in Surah Qaf? Between the ayat 16 and the ayat 22 are the verses that the Shaykh was bringing. Anything that I said as a translator that was incorrect, it's for myself and no shaitan, and anything that I translated that was correct, then all praise due to Allah.